All right, keep going. So, today we're going to talk about the excretory system. So, the excretory system, the function is to collect water and filter body fluids. We all know pretty much the end product in the excretory system, your urine, but we're going to talk about how it gets to that point, okay? So, the function is, and some of you guys may not have never known what the function of the excretory system with your kidneys is, it actually filters your blood, okay? Your kidneys are so important. You have two of them. It's great that you can live off of one, which we'll talk about towards the end of this lesson, but at the same time, it plays an incredibly major role. And if you've ever known anybody that goes into kidney failure, you die if your kidneys die, okay? So your kidneys can definitely keep you alive. So they remove and concentrate waste products from the body fluids, return other substances back to the body, basically as fluids that are necessary for homeostasis, and basically kind of creates again a balance. A lot that has to do with water, but also the other nutrients that are needed in your blood, takes the things that are not needed in your blood, maybe excess water, urea, which we'll talk about, all those things, it takes it out of the blood and then filters it into the ureters and then out through the body as urine. So also eliminate excretory products from the body. So we're not just talking about the kidneys. You'll see in just a moment that the kidneys are not the only excretory organ that we have, okay? So obviously this is showing good pictures of your kidneys and kind of where they're located in relation to everything else, okay? They're these kind of little tiny kidney bean things here sitting there. And you can't necessarily feel them, but if you ever had a kidney infection, you might get some pain in your lower back because that's where your kidneys are pretty much sitting. All right. I told you I would tell you about the other organs of excretion. So not just your kidneys, but obviously those are a main organ of excretion. But how about your lungs? We excrete waste when we exhale, okay? So carbon dioxide, we talked about that in the last lesson. And then this lovely picture, isn't that pretty gross? Yeah, big hairy belly button and, well, belly and skin, okay? So what I'm talking about is your skin is a huge organ of excretion. We excrete waste through our pores, such as sweat and different things that our bodies do not need, and we excrete it through those pores. So obviously, all these organs are organs of excretion. But we are going to focus on the kidneys today because we've already talked about the lungs in depth. We've talked about the skin, so now it's time to talk about the kidneys. All right, so the kidney, so much to talk about. Now, if you were to do a dissection of a kidney, it really doesn't look that amazing, but there's some really huge components in here that do some very specific things. So when you look at the kidney, this is actually cut in half. You have obviously the blood supply that goes to the kidney through the renal artery is the oxygenated blood and the renal vein. So those actually supply the kidney with blood, okay? And then you have different things called the cortex of the kidney, the medulla, and then the calyces. And then the renal pelvis is where kind of all that waste product that ends up being urine is going to kind of collect there and go down the ureter. The ureter is what leads to the bladder, okay, and that's your storage site. So I'll show you more pictures of all that good stuff. But basically, we'll talk about what goes on in the medulla and the cortex. Those are the kind of the parts of the kidney where so much occurs, including this nephron, okay, the most important part of the kidney. So I'll show you guys a more in-depth picture of what the nephron does, because you're like, the nephron? I didn't even know there was such a thing in our bodies. But yes, the nephron, okay? So I'll give you a picture in just a moment, but let me kind of discuss it. So you have something called the glomerulus, which is a filtration of water and solutes from the blood. So basically you have this area called the glomerulus, and this is part of the nephron, okay, the nephron as a whole. And the glomerulus filters that blood and takes kind of the water and the solutes out, kind of everything out of the blood, okay, good and bad. So basically, that's a good thing. Takes everything out of the blood, so you just have basically your red blood cells and the plasma that makes it kind of liquid portion. Then you have tubular reabsorption of the water and conserved molecules back into the blood. So basically, once everything is taken out of the blood, then through this one particular part where you have reabsorption, you have water that goes back into the blood that's necessary if you need that, which we all do, and also the other molecules that are important to basically be in the blood and not filtered out through waste, okay? Then we have tubular secretion of ions and other waste products from the surrounding capillaries into the distal tubule, which then filters into the renal pelvis, goes down to the ureter, into the bladder, and out as urine, okay, through the urethra. So basically, what I just explained, let me kind of go through. So more on the nephron. So remember, we're looking at these two parts right here, the cortex and the medulla, okay? And what we're doing is we're basically taking a portion of this and we're looking at what is microscopically found in these two areas. And this whole little nephron, this is the picture of kind of what the nephron looks like, basically starts up here and then goes down into the medulla. So it starts in the cortex and comes down into the medulla. So I told you that basically you have this little thing called the glomerulus, okay? Well, basically you have blood capillaries and different vessels that are basically housed in the glomerulus, and in the glomerulus everything comes out, okay? Water, solutes, molecules, different things come out of the blood, okay? Then as that stuff kind of moves through here, okay, and here it's showing you that this upper portion right here is part of the cortex, this lower portion down here is found in the medulla, okay? So that's where it's showing that. So then as all of these solutes and water and stuff move through here, okay, and it moves through these tubes here. So then basically as it moves, it's going to reabsorb. You're going to have that reabsorption of all the things that are needed in the blood. So down here you'll see that's what's happening through when all these little blood vessels are kind of wrapped around here. That reabsorption is going to occur back into those blood vessels. So all the good things that your blood needs is going to get it back. And everything the blood doesn't need, excess water, excess solutes, ions, waste products, things that don't need to be in the blood, due to breaking down of your food and different things that happen in your body, metabolic, things that go on in your body, create those kind of byproducts that we don't need. So basically, those stay in these tubes, okay? And basically you end up back here, and this is where all of your urine starts to collect and go down into, where we collect it into the renal pelvis and then out through the ureter and so forth, okay? So I'm not going to test you on specifics, although just know that you're going to hear about this stuff a lot, especially if you take this again in college, which you'll have to take biology. You'll learn a lot more about this in depth. But think about this as a general big picture kind of thing. Blood goes into the kidney. Everything is taken out of the blood, good and bad. And then as the blood moves through and as all of those waste products and good products move through, then the good stuff is put it back into the blood and the rest of the stuff is taken out of the body. There's the easy way to think about it, okay? All right, so how we end up with that lovely yellow liquid we call pee, right? Well, the water and the urea and other waste are filtered out of the kidney, taken down the ureters, and stored in the bladder, right? That's our little kind of housing for our urine. And obviously when you all of a sudden feel like, oh my gosh, I gotta pee, holy cow, what happens is that bladder is filling up and it starts to send signals to your brain because it's pushing on a particular area that sends nerve impulses up to your brain saying, hello, bladder full, can you please, get rid of this waste for me? Otherwise, if you hold it too long, some of you guys have been there before, you hold it way too long, you can have an accident because your muscles can only take so much. And maybe sometimes you've ever heard like your parents say, it's not good to hold your pee, don't just go to the bathroom. And actually that's really true because the longer you hold that, the more pressure you're putting on the muscles in your bladder, and it's not necessarily strengthening them, it's actually weakening. There's like a little, what we call kind of a sphincter, that's almost like this valve in a way, and when obviously you go to the bathroom and you pee, then it opens up and that's great. But if you kind of just hold on to it, it starts to weaken, and over time, especially as you get older, you start to have this kind of little gap here where, yeah, you might have to start wearing those lovely diapers. No, just kidding, hopefully not. But don't hold your pee, okay? Don't do it. So then the urine is released from the bladder down the urethra and out of the body, okay? So this is a good picture of it. Kidneys, ureter, bladder, out through the urethra, all right? So there's some issues that can happen with your kidneys. Some of you guys have ever maybe had a kidney infection, a UTI, which is a urinary tract infection. Those are all kind of under the same umbrella and then can ultimately form kidney stones if you don't, if you have constant kidney infections or urinary tract infections, sometimes it can lead to kidney stones or it can be caused by kidney stones. Kidney stones are basically these crystallized, basically the urea that is in your urine and all the other different ions and molecules basically can crystallize and form these little kind of rocks. Okay, not fun because obviously at some point you have to pass the kidney stone, which basically you have to, get rid of it. And these little tubes are very small, right? Very tiny. So trying to pass one of these jagged little rocks through these tubes is not very fun, can cause a lot of blood, pain, especially for a male. Not to say that females it's not painful as well, but a male obviously has a much smaller opening with their urethra. Women have a little bit, wider of an opening, so it still hurts, but men, excruciating. So not fun. There are some kind of medications that you can try to dissolve the kidney stones, so that's one thing. Sometimes you have to go and get kidney stones removed. It just depends on how severe they are. So not fun. And then here's the last thing I wanted to talk to you guys about. For one reason or another, people can have kidney failure and issues with their kidneys where they do not work properly. So ultimately, when people have kidneys that do not work, maybe they've overworked them, there's a number of ways that you can really, kind of ruin your kidneys. One is a weird way, I'll tell you guys just this because it's just a little FYI, that there used to be this diet out there called the Atkins diet. Some of you guys have heard about that. And the Atkins diet was basically you cut out all carbohydrates and all you eat are proteins. So basically no carbohydrates, even in the form of fruits and vegetables, and you're just filling your body with protein, protein, protein. Well, proteins are really large molecules, and as you have protein in your blood, and these protein molecules are trying to be filtered in your kidney in and out of the blood, it can cause some major, major damage in your kidney if you have too much protein. So protein's a good thing, but again, remember, everything in moderation. So too much protein, people were finding that they were having kidney issues after being on this Atkins diet for a while. So you never want to cut something out of your diet completely, and you never want to go overindulge on things. I mean, protein is a great thing to have in your diet, but you don't need to go overboard, okay? So anyways, nonetheless, if you have kidney failure or kidney problems, typically people are on dialysis, which basically means that this person sitting here could be for 3 to 5 hours, maybe every other day of the week. So think about that, 3 to 5 hours every other day of the week. You have to go to a place, usually a hospital or a clinic, and have all of your blood basically come out of your body into this dialysis machine, which acts like a kidney. It's like a fake kidney. And it's filtering your blood because your kidney cannot do it. And then it puts your blood back into your body. So pretty crazy that this is what someone has to live on, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to survive. Their blood would not be filtered. So it's kind of crazy. And here's a kind of a better picture. We call it the hemodialyzer, which filters the blood right in this area. The hemodialyzer machine, obviously the dialysis machine, filtering blood returned to the body, and then the blood flows from here to this machine. Typically people are on dialysis for however long they need to be. Sometimes they're waiting for a kidney transplant. Sometimes if they have not found the correct donor, because you have to be a perfect match for a kidney transplant, then they could be on dialysis for months or years, So it's pretty substantial life change. So I just want you guys to kind of think about that. Sometimes we take for granted our bodies and how well they do work, and some of us have issues that we know our bodies are not working, very well. So you know what that means, but it's a bummer to kind of think about some of the different things that people have to undergo. So just be thankful if your body is working amazing. Be thankful for that. Don't take that for granted, because some people have a lot of things to deal with. So anyways, there you have it for the excretory system, and we'll move on to our next system.